What's up, everybody? My name is Kason, and welcome back to another War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius video. Today is going to be my first ever tier list, and it is going to be a lightning unit tier list. I've gotten to be known a little bit around the community as the lightning player, especially among Orange's Friday Night Fight participants, so I thought this would just be a really good opportunity to do a tier list. This is one of the elements that I think I have a lot of knowledge of. I don't ever want to make a tier list or a guide on something that I don't feel like I'm providing something helpful, but this time around I think I will. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and let me know in the comments down below where you agree and disagree with what I have to say today. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, before we get into who belongs in which letter of the tier list, I just wanted to break down what exactly I think these letters mean so that you can better understand and follow along as to where I'm ranking units. S plus is the best of the best. They are the hard carries of your team. They're units that could potentially like 3v1 in situations. They have such incredible upside, and they're good in almost every single lightning team comp. I am not rating units at all on their rainbow flexibility. This is a lightning only tier list, so it doesn't matter if they're better in a rainbow comp. It's just specifically for a 3-man lightning team, how good are they? So S plus is the best of the best. S is just ever so slightly worse. Really, the only difference is they're probably not going to hard carry your team. They are incredible. They can fit in every single lightning comp there is. They're just not going to hard carry. A plus isn't necessarily even worse than S, but they're like high ceiling units. They can be very, very effective in certain situations, but they're maybe just not as flexible as the other S units are. A tier list, fairly good, fairly flexible units. You can use them in most comps. They're just very serviceable, very solid units. B plus, and then B just slight tier below those as well. C, pretty much you could find better options, but you can make them work if you had to. And then F tier is completely unusable. And to kick off the F tier, let's just start it. Let's put Vadim right there. This sucks. Unfortunately, Gumi just has not given him his EX job yet. I don't understand what happened, if they just forgot that he needs one. I don't know if they thought that his JP EX sucked and they wanted to redo it. Who knows? But he hasn't received his EX job yet, so he is completely unusable. It's just a shame. Hopefully they do that soon so we can test him out. Orlando, honestly, he probably is usable, but I'm going to put him in the F tier just because he doesn't have his EX job yet. I will rank his EX job later in the tier list just to give you an idea of where I think that his EX job falls. But right now at level 99, he is F, completely unusable. Liarte, this one's tough. Honestly, I'd probably go B tier. She's not the lowest tier of the usable characters. Especially if you were doing like a cost limited format, like a class match or something, she does have functionality in the sense that her accuracy gets to just absolutely ridiculous levels. She does have access to Stop Arrow and Shadow Devour, so she has access to really good status effects. Just the fact that you can build up her accuracy so high that Barrage is pretty much always going to hit against evasion units. There's just a utility there that almost no other character in the game has. The only other one that can do a skill like that that's guaranteed hit is actually Summer Lilith, who's a UR unit. So I like Liarte. She's a serviceable unit, nothing crazy, but as an R unit, you can fill her in very well in cost limited formations. I do like her quite a bit. 9S is actually just slightly above her. That's saying something because he is an 80 cost unit as a UR. I think 9S is just a bit outdated. When he first came out, he was this really nice kind of supportive, bulky unit. I think the thing is he's not nearly as bulky as he used to be. He has good functionality and utility, but there's just nothing super special about him. He's just kind of this meh unit. He's fine. You can fill him in if you don't have a good third unit, but nothing crazy overall. And so I'm throwing him in the B plus tier. He's a good unit, but nothing really to write home about. Cloud is up next, and I am biased because I use Cloud all the time. I use him in my guild formations. I use him in PvP for Friday Night Fights. I use him for all sorts of things. I genuinely believe, though, that Cloud is one of the best characters in the game. When it comes to just generic Guild War PvP tier lists, I probably wouldn't put him in S+, just for the fact that I don't think he's as good in a rainbow comp. But again, this is just how good are you in a lightning comp? And I think he's unbelievable. He has access to some really good TMRs, like Kane's Dragoon Helmet. He can run Aldoa's Apron or Bells or whatever. Like, there's a lot of good TMR options for him. He has slash attack resist down. He has access to reflex, sharpshoot, barrage, and his main job is just incredible. His limit break's good because it breaks shields. With crit evasion down, so he's basically guaranteed crit. He has an AoE guaranteed hit and crit. I mean, he just absolutely demolishes evasion units. He's good against the water meta. I don't know how you can't have him S+. As long as you're not running into Earth, Cloud is probably very strong and very serviceable. So for that, he's definitely in the S+ tier. For Alim, I'm going to throw her in the B tier with Liarte. She does have a harder cost, or a higher cost than Liarte, but I actually do think she can be pretty solid. She has a tune-up passive which can give her 40 defense penetration, which is really nice as a base. She has an access to another move that can give her plus 20. So if you were to put like a Trust Stone passive and run an Assault set on her, theoretically one turn in she could have 80 defense pen, and that's really nice considering she has access to 3 different weapon types. So she can go for pierce damage, slash damage, and missile damage. So overall, not a bad unit. You know, she's an MR, she's nothing crazy, but you could fit her in different comps for cost limited format, and I enjoy playing around with her. She's fun. So another unit that I think belongs in that B tier is Salir. And once upon a time, Salir was an incredible unit. Belonged on a lot of high-end PvP teams way back in the day when it was like 99 was the max level. Her best move in the game is a single target move, and that one move is fantastic. I believe it's called Bolt Surge. It has a ton of range, it's got a really good modifier, and it has a unit attack resist down effect. The only thing about this is a lot of the lightning units that are really strong right now have a lot of AoE attacks. Like Cloud has his triple slash and blade burst, he has barrage, Ibarra has tons of AoE damage, Skahala has AoE damage. Even Charlotte has a couple AoE moves, but like for the most part, a lot of the damage you're trying to do as a lightning cast is AoE. So the unit attack resist down is just kind of okay to me. If she had an AoE attack resist down ability, kind of like a Gargus or something, I think she could probably fall into this B+ tier or something. But I think B is a decent spot for her. She can be used in cost limited formats, just like most of the lightning cast can. And that's pretty much it. If she had full life or something, she might be even higher, but she doesn't. She just has like Curata and stuff. So next up is Charlotte, and this was a tough one. And when I was creating this tier list, I struggled because I originally started off with like 5 tiers, and that just wasn't enough. I realized that I needed some more separation between characters, and this is why I made an S and S+ tier, and she is going in the S tier. This was a struggle. I couldn't decide whether I wanted her in S or S+, but again, the way I broke down the tiers before, Charlotte's not going to hard carry your team. She can be an absolutely incredible tank, and when her Mastery 2 hits, oh man, I am excited. She's going to have innate hate. Her attract wall is going to give her 100% debuff resist to not only defense and spirit, but I believe element debuff too. She's just going to be an absolute animal when her Mastery 2 comes out, and she will probably be S+ tier at that point. But for now, she's just really solid. Lightning Strike is a really nice ability to have as a tank because it debuffs the elemental resistance for all of your damage dealers. That's great. Her limit break is really nice, nerfing the damage of the other team. It has a really nice AoE. She does have access to pummel on her sub job in case you want to use any other strike units and stuff like that. And even though I don't really use it, Swift Punishment is a pretty good ability too. I just normally turn it off because of Track Wall and Glorious Armor, it's almost imperative that you get both of those buffs off. And if you have Swift Punishment on, a lot of times she won't actually get both buffs off. But yeah, she's a fantastic unit. I have very little complaints about Charlotte. Again, she's in my PvP arena and Guild War team almost every single day. She is incredible. All right, another top tier unit, Esther. And I will preface this by saying I don't have Esther at 120. My Esther is currently sitting at 89. I am counting down the days until the next Global Fest comes back so that I can buy her shards in the shop so that I can 120 her immediately. But I didn't have enough Visior to max her last time. I only had enough to get her. So because I wanted to make sure that I got her Vision card, which is extremely important. I do think, though, that she's probably S plus tier. She's in either S or S plus. She is a different unit than Cloud for sure. I don't think she's necessarily a Cloud substitute in the sense that they're not the same type of character. If you're going against fully physical teams, the benefit of Esther is you don't even necessarily have to have Charlotte. But man, she is just so insanely bulky versus physical. It's crazy. Like, she's definitely more physically bulky than Charlotte is. Her damage is really good. She has pretty solid utility. She has an AoE buff. So AoE resist buff on an AoE ability. She's just got a lot of good utility. She has a barrier that she can give herself. The only real downside to Esther is that you need some sort of management for her AP. So you either need to run bells on her, or you either need an AP or TP set along with probably a Coral sub VC and potentially other things too. So her AP is really the only issue, but I think that can easily be overcome, and she is just an absolute top tier unit. She definitely belongs in S+. Frederica. I put her in the A tier, and again, this is one of those units that made me say I need more tiers, because having her in the same tier as 9S just didn't feel right to me, and having her in the same tier as whoever belongs in here did not feel right to me either. I think she is serviceable in almost every team comp, except if you're going against somebody like Engelbert. Man, he can just absolutely shut her down. Like, she just does not do a lot of damage to him. Otherwise an Earth team also, but that's pretty much for every Lightning unit except for maybe Esther. Can't really deal with Earth. Frederica's a good unit though. She a lot of times will probably be run with bells just because she can be AP hungry, especially if you want to be barraging a lot. But just having Sharpshoot and Barrage is already in itself really good. Vital Sharpshot is a really good ability. She has access to Shikuchi if you want. Shadowrunner's a good passive, or Concentrate passive is really good. Just an overall solid unit. She's not top tier anymore. She won't hard carry your team, but she has really serviceable damage, and paired with somebody like a Cloud, if you are, map dependently wanting to run a missile team, she can be really good. She can be really effective. So I think she's an A tier. And very similarly to her, I made sure to pair these guys right next to each other. I think Nivlu's also an A tier. She doesn't have the guaranteed hit like Frederica does. She doesn't have quite as much AoE, but her damage actually can get higher than Fred's. Her limit break is really solid. You can build her one of two ways. You can either go a time mage, kind of like supporty style with like being a bow user, so she can do some damage and also bring haste and quicken, which is really nice. So she's a very flexible unit. Otherwise, I've actually tested it out a couple times in class match too. If you go strongbow stance and just go a nuke build, she can actually do pretty crazy damage. So I think Nivlu is another really serviceable unit. Just anybody with a time mage sub is probably going to have some sort of relevance regardless. But I think Fred and Nivlu pair really well together on that A tier, which brings me up to the other unit that can be a gunner, but I think is just a better gunner. She is in the A+ tier of Lightning units, and that is Queen. Comparatively to Fred or Nivlu, obviously she doesn't have the utility that Nivlu does, but if you bring her as a physical attacker, even though her attack stat is not crazy, she actually gets higher attack than Frederica, and I believe Nivlu as well, just because you can pair Warrior Spirit along with the Gifted and Upstanding Student passive. So with both of those passives, her attack stat gets really high. Her AP starting rate is insane, so you never have to run bells on her. She can run a ton of different good TMRs, from Lamega's TMR. You can run Black Rose Helena's TMR, which is really good on her. Agility plus a shield and stuff like that. She brings strike damage and missile damage. She brings the disable with the arm shot. She's just a really good unit, and I think this is a unit that a lot of people sleep on, don't think that she's incredible. I mean, she's not like an S tier character, but she's very good, and especially right now against the Astraeus Celeste meta, if you are struggling against that water comp, especially with a Velis, Queen might be a character you want to use, at least if you have the VC setup for her, because Queen does really well into that meta. She's not always going to be a good unit. She's very matchup dependent, but she's one of those units that, depending on the matchup you're in, could be like a very high ceiling character like this. It's just that her ceiling is S+ and her floor is like B. So that's the thing about Queen. But all right, the next character, this is another tough one for me. Renan, I'm going to be biased. There's two characters that I haven't used enough, and that's Esther, and the other one is Renan. I think I'm going to place Renan here, but honestly, I could make a case for A tier. But yeah, I'm going to go with A+ tier. I don't think he's S tier. The thing is with Renan is he brings a lot of utility. Against the Celeste meta, he's really not great because he can't really do damage to her if she has her runic up. So you pretty much have to make it through like a whole turn or two of damage before you do anything. But he brings a lot of utility. He has barrier break. He has, I believe, courage removal or re-raise removal. He has technically heals in his sub job. He has the devout sub job. He just brings a lot of really nice things. He has a confusion on his AoE. Just an overall really good unit. I don't think his damage is like top tier though. Like I think his damage is very good. But it's not top tier. He is more of a utility based mage rather than just like a come up and nuke you in the face mage, which I'll skip a couple units and talk about that one instead, which is Skahal. And I will also bring him into the A+ tier. And I'm actually going to move him right here because I do think, my personal opinion is probably a hot take, I think Skahal is slightly better than Renan. I said it out loud, that's what I believe. So I'm going to move him ahead of him. Don't worry about where Queen's at, but yeah. So these two are very different characters though. Skahal doesn't have a lot of things. Like he has very few things that go well. His counter, his Thundaga Disposer, and you could do like Time Mage sub jab. That's basically it. But the thing is, those things that he does so well. Like the Thundaga Disposer is such a good ability that it almost doesn't matter that he doesn't have a whole lot else in his kit. Like his best ability is better than Renan's best ability. You know what I'm saying? So Renan may have 4 or 5 good abilities and 4, 5, 6 good things about him, where Skahal only really has 2, but his 2 things are top tier. So I just really like Skahal. His damage is insane. He has haste and quicken sub job. And again, another character that I think people sleep on just because he's an older character. But if you've ever been debilitating countered for 4k or 5k damage, then you know Skahal's legit. So the next character is Mariluk, and I'm going to put her in C tier. I tested her recently, and before I tested her, I actually thought she was probably the worst character in the entire game. I am probably going to make a video on her shortly because even though I don't think she's a good character, there are a couple of like hilarious strats that you can do with her, which I won't spoil for you guys right now. I am going to make a video on it at some point in the next few weeks or so. But overall, her kit is just so lacking. Her monk, like her monk job, if she had pugilist maybe with some of those like actual like attack abilities, she might be a little better. But honestly, like as a whole, she's just really underwhelming and not a whole lot to say about her. But look forward to the video because you can do some hilarious things with her, even though she's not a very good unit. Sir O, shout out to Dr. Diggs, his favorite character, S+ tier. No, I'm just kidding. But I am going to put him in the B tier. I think he's actually pretty serviceable. Again, I've run some test things with him. If you have the proper lightning VC setup, his attack stat can get very high. He can get decent defense penetration and slash attack penetration, again, if you have the right VCs. He has ability to use some good TMRs. Again, if you are able to use like Kane's TMR, I think that's just could be a really good boost to you. He's able to, with that TMR, get up to, I believe, 5 move 2 jump if you use that ability. So just sending O in with a lot of damage like early on, I think he's very serviceable. Again, this B tier a lot of times is pretty much just a cost limited tier. You're probably not going to use this tier unless you're in a class match or something. But I think O is really decent. Same thing with Silma right here. I don't think she's anything crazy. I think when she first came out, people thought this was like a really strong unit. I just never really saw it, I guess. Like she has a couple of really nice things with like jamming thrust, and she does have access to some heals, and I don't know, she's okay. Nothing crazy, but she's definitely better like than the Mariluk tier, so I'll throw her in the B tier. This one is interesting, and I'm probably piling up too many characters here in the B tier. But I'm going to do it again, is I'm going to put Schutzelt in the B tier. Schutzelt just got his Mastery 2, like yesterday, and I practiced with him. And the thing about him is he can get insane levels of slash attack penetration. Like if you really wanted to run it with all the VCs, he could get over 80 slash attack penetration, which is pretty crazy. The problem is he lacks in defense penetration. Realistically, you're probably only going to have 20 on him unless you run Oldo's Apron, which if you do, you almost have to be running somebody else in the comp with haste, because he is just not fast. He's not a fast unit. So if you build up for his attack and then you run Oldo's Apron, he's probably going to be sitting at 70 something agility, which I've been on record saying that agility is overrated, which I think to a point it is, but not when you have 70 something. That's way too low and you're going to get lapped. Your tank's probably going to die before you hit. So I do still put him in the B tier though, because if you set him up correctly and you don't go against just a really high defense tank, his damage can actually be pretty nuts. Like he could very easily push for 1800 plus attack depending on the build you went on him. His attack stat can actually get pretty insane and have really good slash attack pen. He also has access to sharpshoot and reflex, which are always really good bonuses. So again, in the future, I will probably make a shuts out video too, but I think all these characters are just kind of fitting into the like I'm serviceable cost limited tier. The next one is Resnick, and this is another one that I struggled with, and I'm going to slot her into the S tier. And that's just because it falls into the same tier that I said before. They're incredible units. They can be used in basically every lightning comp, but they're probably not going to hard carry for your team. And I stand by that. I have played Resnick at level 99 a lot, and she offers a ton. So I might be selling her short by putting her in S instead of S+. She's definitely not an A+ tier. She's a very good unit. She has incredible heals, really good buffs. The instant heal limit break is fantastic. Like, the fact that she combines heals and buffs into one ability really seamlessly. She also has a Arithmetician sub. She's just a really solid unit. With the Thief Lord, you could get 4 move with her, which is really nice for a support because a lot of supports don't have 4 move. She's just an overall really good unit. And I'm looking forward to when I do 120 her, and maybe if I ever do another tier list, maybe she'd move up to S+. But I think she's about right in this S tier. She's really strong unit. So if you did get Resnick, be happy. She's a really good character. All right, and here's Ravis. So she's an MR unit, so you probably think she's going right here. And I don't know if this is my hot take of the day or what, but I wholeheartedly believe this. Ravis is an A+ unit. I said it here. I stand by it. She's incredible. She was my tank for the Orange A Friday night fights for a couple of different weeks. She's incredible, and I'm definitely going to make a video on her as well, but just some quick things to know about Ravis. She has innate hate, which is incredible for a tank. It's only 5, so it's nothing crazy. If you wanted to run Vow of Love, you could give her an extra 2 or 5, depending on how you want to do that. I don't think you need it, but an innate 5 hate in a lot of maps is good enough to get it done. She has Immortal Spirit, so on turn 1, she can use Immortal Spirit. So even though she's an MR, she'll get pretty good stats from her passives. She'll have Courage and Hate on her on turn 1. That's basically like Engelbert's turn 1 buff, gives him Hate and Courage. There's a reason that buff is so good. Well, yeah, Ravis basically has the same thing, just not as much Hate. She only has 5 instead of like 10 or 12 or whatever Engelbert's is. But that's turn 1. The other thing is turn 2, you can do one of 2 things. You can run Zombie Ryryu's TMR to give a re-raise. So now you basically have to kill her 3 times because you have to kill her, then kill her Courage, then kill her re-raise. Or another TMR that I think is slept on because very few characters can use it. To my knowledge, only 4 characters in the game can use it. That is Charlotte's TMR, her big sister up here, her S tier sister Charlotte. Charlotte's TMR gives a physical and magical shield for 3 hits, and it's really, really solid. It gives really good health, really good spirit. So Ravis is mostly a defensive tank, but you could easily stack up a really high amount of spirit on the Charlotte TMR. And the other thing that makes her really nice is against evasion units. And you're probably like, evasion units? Like, why would I want to take Ravis against evasion units? You can put Rob's VC on her as a sub card, and she slaps evasion units. Like, she can actually do really legitimate damage against Locke and Elena and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Ravis is slept on. I'm probably going to get some crazy looks for putting her A+ against, like, up against Fred Nivlu and 9S and all that kind of stuff. But as a tank, she is legit. She is very legit. She is tanky enough that most of the time she does not get one shot, which means that's one hit she absorbed. If she has a mortal spirit, that's two. If they even get a mortal spirit on the second hit, then to kill her is 3. And if she had Charlotte's Shield on, I promise you she's probably dying in 4 hits. 4 hits is a lot to take for an MR tank. Like, I'm telling you, if you haven't practiced Ravi's 120 or tried it out, I think you should. I think she's very, very good. All right, Velnay is the next one, and I have a hard time with her. She is somewhere between B+ and B. I don't think I want to put her on B+ because she's probably not as good as 9S, but I also think they're just different units. Velnay is somewhere where on a smaller map, I think can theoretically do really well. She can stack up really good stats early in the fight. So she's more of just like a 1 buff unit. You basically want her to buff and then hit somebody really hard. She has pierce and strike damage, which is nice because those are damages that are really not mitigated very well against. And yeah, she's kind of a niche unit. She's probably one of the worst selection quest units in the game, but I have used her to success on specific maps, and I do enjoy the theory craft on trying to get her to work. And finally, last but not least, we have Ibarra. And if I'm honest with myself, I think Ibarra might be the best lightning unit in the game. It's close. It's really close. Like, all 3 of these characters are really good. Like, some days I think Cloud is the best, some days I think Ibarra is the best, but if you're going against physical units, it's probably Esther. I mean, all 3 of these units are absolutely incredible, but man, where do I start with Ibarra? Her first buff that she uses, the Fall of Night, is incredible. It buffs like 3 things. It gives her Man Eater, it gives her magic attack up, modifier, and magic up. I mean, so basically she has 15 mod up on every ability that she does, essentially. She has Wailing Storm, which drops lightning resistance by 30%. Her Malevolent Lightning breaks every stat in the book, including lightning resist on a target. That move pretty much almost always one-shots whoever the hell you're going against. Her damage is so insane you don't even need to run a weapon on her. Like, you can literally run Spirit Glasses, Galmia Coat, and a accessory TMR, and her damage is plenty good to be one-shotting characters. She has Counterman Slash, so if you build Accuracy and Luck Trust Stones, she can fairly effectively hit evasion units. There's just very little she's not good against, and even though obviously she's going to lose to Earth, she can actually hit Earth units pretty hard. So yeah, I think she's just an incredible unit. She might be the best one of the whole Lightning tier. I would probably put her there or tied with these other 2. And that's for the most part my tier list. I do have 2 more characters down here, and these are more just speculative because they are not out yet, but I do want to talk about them a little bit. So here is Lightning from FF13, and if I had to guess where she falls, I think she's going to basically not be better than any of these 3 units, but more of a replacement for those 3 units. She has a slash attack resist down like Cloud does. She has Dispel Spread on her sniper job, which could be really, really useful when going against another tank because you throw off their hate and stuff like that. Great access to missile and slash attacks, so I'm sure she's going to pair extremely well with Cloud. She has a great counter that is similar to Astrius's. It's not quite as strong, but it's very good. She has a follow-up attack like Astrius. Again, not quite as strong, but very good. I think she's going to be an absolute top-tier unit. Lightning's going to be an absolute monster. And Thunder God Sid EX. If I have to guess where he's going, he's one of these 2 tiers. I would have to say he's probably S tier, but it is possible he might be even with these guys. I'm going to throw him here, but that's just kind of my guess. He's got his nice haste on his limit break, which is really cool. He has debuffs and stuff like that. He has a lot of really good range. He has crush armor, which has always been a good ability. He's just got a lot of really good things going for him. And yeah, if I had to guess, he's probably going to be S tier. We're not going to know that for quite a while, but yeah, just taking a peek at my tier list, I think this is pretty much exactly how I would want it to be. If I had to move anything at all, It would probably be like 1 or 2 of these characters coming down to C tier, but otherwise I think this is pretty much hitting the nail right on the head for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know in the comments down below where you agree and disagree with me. I can't wait to hear how people think differently on this than me. That's going to be really exciting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to see more guides and more tier lists and stuff like that to help you become better War of the Visions players, please hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the like button down so that more people are able to see this video. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a wonderful day.